I was there the day that the seas boiled. The rumbling of the dirt beneath my feet caused me to quiver with terror long before I saw them. The world was ending. I was going to die. Of those two things, I was more than certain. The nest mother told us to run. She didn't say to where, just to run. So I did. She called after me, yelling out my name. It pains me to say that I do not remember what the name my nest mother gave me was. It has been so very long now. I only remember the thick emotion in every syllable. The mother's powerful prayer that her offspring would live, no matter the odds. That was the sound that she made. A bargain with the universe for my soul. I did not stop to thank her. The shaking around me increased, sending tremors up my stocky legs as I struggled to run faster. The tunnel began to collapse around me. Dust billowed out from side passages that had given way with roaring cacophony. Still, I ran on. I remember the way that my eyes began to water as the particulates filled my vision and choked my breathing. The light at the entrance to our tunnel city seemed impossibly far away, separated from those who ran towards it in desperation by more steps than most of us would take in days, let alone minutes. I could feel my body overheating. My kind are not bred for such sudden exertion. Around me, I could hear the screams of countless terrified people. Nest mothers and queens were the loudest, their lungs were the most developed, causing their cries to pierce the rumbling of the crumbling rock. Sometimes, however, as I raced past the alcove homes of members of my kind, I would hear the low whimper of the young ones. Did they know that they were going to die? I still have no answer. I did not stop to ask. I cared only for myself, that most hideous trait. On the day that the world ended, I found myself hollow, compassionless. Still, I ran upwards, towards the light. I'll never forget the icy wind that met me when I breached the surface. Our world was always cold. It was why we had evolved to live beneath its inhospitable surface. Even deep within the dying world, it was cold. We grew long, thick coats to compensate. On the surface, we would be dead within hours. The wind would freeze off our extremities first. What little heat we would produce would be stolen by a cold, uncaring world. The embers within us would fade to nothing, and then we would die. I would die. Forever immortalized in some kind of solidified effigy, my body would remain on the surface until the end of time. The cold sun glowed overhead as a small dot, impossibly far away. We called it Rashirin and believed it a great egg. Many of our rituals were a prayer that it might hatch and bring the love of the gods back to our world. Then the warm times shall come, the story weavers would say. I did not believe that a whole world could ever be warm. Life's purpose was to fight the cold. That was my belief. On the day the seas boiled, I thought no differently. The sky turned red on the horizon. I had never seen anything like it. It was as though the world was angry. Perhaps our rituals had angered the stonemaker at the heart of the world. Certainly, he must have been angry with us. The ground trembled in protest, an attempt to cast us out. Life's end had come at last. I remember looking back down the tunnel I had burst forth from. It was dark inside, and my vision could not plumb the depths. Somehow, I knew my nest mother had already perished. Only 3 more of my kind would make it out alive. 2 of them told me some time later that they wished that they hadn't. The universe is a hard place, and harder still, without those who you love. After a moment, I turned back to the growing red on the horizon. It fascinated me. When the roaring wall of fire broke forth from beyond the world's edge, I realized something. I wasn't going to freeze. My end would be quite the opposite. I heard the voice of the elders. The warm times have come. I do not think that anyone had hoped that they would be quite so hot. The great precipice of flame raged towards me with all of the fury of a supernova. When it reached the great frozen flats, I watched the seas boil. The steam raced upwards as the icy coat was scoured from the surface of my homeworld. Soon, it was nearly upon me. I suppose that I should have been afraid. I wasn't. It was all too much for me. At the time, I could not have begun to imagine the terrible fate that had befallen my planet. In the end, it wasn't the gods that were angry. It was simply the end of things. A cosmic game of action and reaction. Then, I felt the warmth of the flames. They had almost reached me, and already, I could feel their embrace. The wind raced past, fleeing the towering inferno. The roaring of the fire filled my ears. The atmosphere itself was burning. Soon, I would join it. A mere heartbeat later, I was covered in a soft whitish light. I closed my eyes and accepted my fate. In a way, I was happy to not have to experience a slow, cold death. This was a mercy, this warmth. This is what death feels like. If it was not so bad. It felt soft, like a mother's embrace. My body was neither too warm, nor was it too cold. I don't know how long I sat with my eyes closed, allowing peace to wash over me. Perhaps, I opened my eyes after many hours. Perhaps it was only seconds. What I saw was stranger than anything I could have imagined. I was in a room. Not one with rock walls or gem-encrusted doors, like those of the tunnel cities, but one that was wide and curved. I thought at first that I was surrounded by others of my kind, but quickly, I realized that it was my reflection in the polished metal that I witnessed. The terror of my ordeal was still written across my hardened face. I could see the redness of my eyes staring back at me from the impossibly clear wall. I realized that the roar of the fire was gone. Now there was only silence. I let clean-tasting air fill my lungs. Is this what comes after? If it was, perhaps I could get used to it. There was a crackling sound. It came from everywhere at once. Then, it was replaced by the guttural growls of my kind. Do not fear. The gods told me. You're safe. This is the PRC capital carrier, Judgment. You were evacuated off of E-127Z just before its total destabilization. Your world was hit by a Class 5 protoplanet, and the surface and atmosphere have mostly vaporized. I'm sorry, but there were hardly any other survivors. I wish we could have arrived sooner. I did not understand much of what the gods were telling me. Their words and phrases were far beyond my understanding. That did not bother me much. One cannot expect to exist within the same realm as the gods. The room crackled again. We're going to open the door now, please do not fear. I did not fear. I knew already that the gods would be kind and welcoming. They would treat me as a member of the faithful flock deserved. The door slid open soundlessly, vanishing into the wall, as though it had never been there to begin with. In the hollow space, a creature faced me. I was surprised to see that it was only a third my size. It had 4 appendages to my 3. 2 eyes to my 5, and it had no dark hole to grip things that I could see anywhere. The gods were certainly strange-looking things. This one sported long red threads that hung down in tight curls from the top of its form. Its skin was white and hairless near its eyes and mouth. The clothing it wore was nothing like the Adaka skins that we wore. I remember the way that it showed its teeth to me. I would later learn that the gods called this smiling. It was supposed to be a disarming gesture, one that built trust among the gods. Then, it began to sing to me. The heavens have no music like the words that the gods use. Soothing like a hot spring and beautiful like a sunset. When the room crackled and began to speak in my own tongue, I was almost embarrassed to hear my kind's words. Hello, my name is Melanie. The creature told me. What's your name? The room fell silent for many moments. I did not know if I was to speak. The god did not seem to mind the quiet. The name that my mother had given me was not good enough to be spoken to such a magnificent creature. If I was to be spoken of by the gods, then I needed a new designation. Finally, I told her a name that I hoped would express my eternal gratitude that I was among the chosen to be saved. I am Servant, I told her. She smiled again at me. I found that I already liked it. She talked to me for a very long time. She weaved beautiful stories, and I offered her what little I could. Always, she listened intently to my growling words. Melanie stayed until I was able to surrender the pain that I held within me. I told her about my youth and my family. She touched my thick coat with a tiny white hand, delicate like a flake of snow. I was glad for her company. Finally, I asked her why the gods had bothered to save any of us. This time, she did not smile. Instead, she was quiet for many moments. Only the sounds of my heavy breaths were audible to my ears. Finally, she sang the answer to me and I understood. Because, it's what we do. I suppose that the day the seas boiled was really only the start of my journey. So much was lost, friends and family, that I shall never forget. However, I have my consolation, because even more was gained. Though they are so humble to deny their divinity, the gods have showed me wondrous things. They have taken me to the place where stars dance and planets sing with delight. I have seen the blanket of the sky, filled with 1,000,000,000 stars. Through all of it, I have found these things to be true. I am not lost, though my steps range far and wide. The universe is not hopeless, though it can be dark. Those who are gods will deny that they hold such power, even when their ability to reshape the cosmos is evident. Finally, life is not about struggling against the cold. It is about creating warmth. So, until the day I draw my last breath, I shall answer to only one name. It is the name I desire and the name that I deserve. To the universe, with all its raw power to create and destroy, and to the gods, who reshape what is and build what is not, I am, and shall forever be. Servant. Author's name and the link to original text is in the description. Consider tapping the thumbs up and pressing the subscribe button if you enjoyed this video.